everyone, welcome back. Today I'm doing a video on creating a positive classroom environment or having a good tone to your environment. And this is something you're going to want to start with on day one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a stack of books here that I have used anywhere from grades 1st through 5th that have worked really well for me over the years. And these are really good starting points for getting a classroom discussion going. Because on the first day of school, you really don't want the kids to walk into the room and you have a pre-written list of rules on the board, and these are the rules the kids are going to live by. The children have no ownership in those rules. Rules really need to be something that the class creates together. So I'm going to go through some of these books and show you how I go about creating the classroom rules and setting a positive tone for the classroom. Some books that are really good for grades 1 through 3, maybe 1 through 2, is the books from Free Spirit Publishing. The first one is called Share and Take Turns, and the next one is Hands Are Not for Hitting. These books are really quick reads. They're specifically made for like ages 4 to 7, and it goes through and tells you what you should do with your hands, what you shouldn't do with your hands, and how you should react if someone does something wrong. You know, say you're sorry, apologize, and it's a really great way, again, to get a discussion going, because even first graders are capable of talking about what they should and shouldn't be doing with their hands and feet, and the proper way to treat each other. And then Share and Take Turns is another really good one to help teach them about recess rules and how they should behave on the playground when they're sharing the slides and the swings and that kind of stuff. So these are two really good resources, and I brought both of these books on Amazon.com. In fact, I've bought most of these books on Amazon.com. So again, really nice for lower elementary. This book is one that I swear by. I have read this to first graders. I have read it to second graders. This year I read this book to 4th graders. It's called Don't Squeal Unless It's a Big Deal. And this book kind of becomes the gospel in my classroom, because if there's one pet peeve I really have, it is tattletaling. I can't stand it. It drives me bonkers. And most teachers I know have the exact same response to tattletales. So what I love about this book is it goes through, and by the end of the book, the children learn when they should go to the teacher and tattletale, and when it is a kid-sized problem and it is something that they need to learn to deal with on their own. And at the end of the book, there's a real emergency with the teacher. She actually faints in the classroom, and the children have to get help for her. And they realize, wow, this is a big deal. We needed an adult to intervene and help us in this moment. And so once I read this book, this is the book that sets off making the classroom rules for me. No matter what grade I'm teaching, this is the book that will be used to create our classroom rules. And what I will literally do is, on chart paper, I will make a Tchart. And if you do Daily 5, you're really familiar with Tcharts. And we will label the Tchart kid-sized problems on this side and big deal on this side. And as a class, we will go through and talk about the different things that the children have experienced in the past that they went to the teacher to talk about. And when it comes to the big deal, I do have what I call my rule of 3 Bs. Bleeding, barfing, and breaking my stuff. Those are 3 mandatory things that will be put on the big deal. If someone in the classroom is bleeding, barfing, or breaking the things in the classroom, you need to inform me right away. But you will be amazed how many of the day-to-day problems will become kid-sized problems. And don't make this before the kids come in. This will not even be finished on the first day of school. On the first day of school, you're just going to touch upon all the situations that are going to happen in the course of your classroom. As the weeks go by, months go by, and tattletaling events or problems arise, you're going to refer back to this chart again and again and again. And if a new situation comes up that's not on the chart, as a class, you're going to talk. Okay, is this something that's such a big deal that you really need a teacher to come and intervene? Or is this a small problem that really you guys can work out by yourselves? And the whole goal of this is to free the teacher from the multitude of tattletales that will go on throughout a day. Because again, I've taught all the grade levels, and I find that tattletales, they don't go away. You would think that by the time you get to be a 4th grade teacher or 5th grade teacher, that the kids are outgrowing tattletales. They're really not. In fact, if anything, the older the kids get, the more they become drama queens, and even the smaller transgressions become big, big deals to them. And again, you know, Miss Bietler, Miss Bietler, Miss Bietler, and then you start to lose real valuable class time to just nonsense, real honest to God nonsense that you get sick of dealing with these problems. So also this list will change from year to year based on the kids in your room. Usually cussing and swearing is a big deal and it shouldn't happen in the room. But then a couple years ago, I had a couple of kids in the room who were kind of mean, and they loved to shock people. So they would drop cuss words constantly. And I eventually had to move cussing to a kid-sized problem. I really did. And we had a class circle. We talked about it, how, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so are really looking for attention. They're looking to stop the teaching. They're looking to get a break from classwork, so they'll say a really bad cuss word, and they know that the whole room has to stop then, and then we would spend 15 minutes to address this. And really, that was their end game. They really wanted the work to stop and have a nice big conversation that went on for 15 minutes, because then they got to be the star of the room and the center of attention. So by moving cussing to a kid-sized problem that year, and teaching the kids how to react to those cuss words, it became a kid-sized problem. And once those two kids realized, wow, she's really not going to talk about this. She really doesn't care that we said these words. You know what happened? The kids actually stopped saying them. They really did. Once they didn't get to be the center of attention, once they didn't get the shock value that they were looking for, it became boring. And suddenly saying a B word or a worse word, there was no fun in it anymore, and it just kind of weaned off and naturally stopped. The only time there was an exception to that rule is if the cuss word was a racist cuss word. That, yes, class was stopped, it was addressed immediately, because that can't happen. But so again, you're going to learn what becomes a big deal and what doesn't become a big deal. Right. And then another thing that is a big deal is physical contact. Last year I had a student, I will call him Bob, and Bob, again, he liked to say the cuss words on occasion, but he had a cognitive impairment, so sometimes his behaviors really were a little bit out of his control, and so the children had to be taught. Sometimes we can't take the things Bob says to heart. You know, that's literally Bob being Bob. We have to learn to accept him the way he is. The exception to that rule, though, was any physical contact. The minute Bob hit somebody or kicked someone, no, Bob was immediately disciplined, sent to the office, and parents were called in to address that, because at the end of the day, the most important thing in your classroom is the children have to feel safe. A lot of times you don't know what the home life is for these children, and not all of them are coming from a wonderful family home life. Some of them, school is their safe place. So no matter what the problems are in your room. The children have to know at the end of the day that school, this classroom really is their safe zone, their safe place to be, and that someone is looking after their needs and that their needs will be met. All right? Once something is moved to the kid-sized problem though, you do have to follow through and teach them how to deal with a kid-sized problem, because no one really wants to be cussed at. No one really wants to have someone steal a turn from them if it's their turn. No one really wants to play a game with someone who's going to cheat at a math game. So you do have to model behaviors. And in the month of September, we will actually role play bad things happening. And we will talk about, okay, what is a proper response to this? And sometimes the best response to teach the kids is to literally have them practice saying the word whatever. It's amazing how many disputes, disagreements can literally be solved in a moment when one of the children says whatever and just walks away. Another one that I've taught the kids is to literally show the hand, and this hand means stop. Okay, this hand is not for hitting, it's for showing I'm done. Stop this now, I'm out. So this is a strategy I teach the class. And another thing I really talk to the boys and girls about a lot in the classroom is to take back their power. When one child is picking on you, that is usually someone who's looking for self-gratification. I don't feel good about myself, so I'm going to pick on you to make you feel as bad as I do. And I've talked with the children how if you argue back with the kid, that child, the kid being picked on loses and the aggressor is the winner. If you run to the teacher and tattletale, the aggressor wins. If you cry and yell, the aggressor wins. But you get to take back your power, and you are the winner when you refuse to engage. It takes two kids to fight. And if you refuse to engage, if you refuse to get angry, if you refuse to cry, if you refuse to hit someone when they say something mean to you, you've taken back your own power and you're in control of yourself. And I will tell the kids, that's not always easy. It is a very, very difficult skill to learn, to be in control of your own power, to not engage. But if you can learn that, eventually the aggressor gives up. Because if you don't give the aggressor the attention they need, the attention they're looking for, they will get bored and they really will stop. And I have seen this work. The children I've had with me have seen this work. So it is a really good skill to share with them. Because as much as a teacher will intervene, as much as a teacher can bring two kids together and they'll talk out their problems, you know, sometimes a kid will talk a good game, and in front of the grown-up, the child will be apologetic, the child will promise, I won't do it again. But, you know, kids are kids, and the minute the grown-up turns their back, if the kid wants to be a little stinker, the kid's going to be a little stinker. So you have to almost teach the children how to be bully-proof, to take back their own power, to not engage. And that is a way that you teach children to deal with the kid-sized problems. So just a few helpful suggestions there. But again, any physical contact, no, that is not a kid-sized problem. That becomes a teacher problem immediately. All right. Moving on to other books I like to use in my classroom. This is one I'm sure a lot of teachers are familiar with. Have You Filled a Bucket Today? A Guide to Daily Happiness for Kids. And then the other book, Will You Fill My Bucket? And I have a third one even, Have You Filled a Bucket Today? Unfortunately, I left that one in my classroom, but I will link all these books below on Amazon.com. They're all available to buy. The bucket books are really, really wonderful because once you've had your lessons on Don't Squeal, It's a Big Deal, then after that one, the next following days will come out the bucket books. And it's basically books telling you just about kindness and how you can feel good if you make someone else feel good. That kindness is a two-way streak. That when you're being kind, not only does the person win that you're being kind to, but you're a winner too, because it just feels good, right? Another very, very powerful book is this one called Don't Laugh at Me, and this is by Steve Seskin and Alan Shamlin. And this book is actually a song, and in the cover of the book is a CD. This is one of the most powerful tools I have ever had for teaching kindness in the classroom. And it talks about how everyone has something wrong with them. And it's not really that it's something wrong with them, it's just we all have our own hang-ups. Whether it's glasses, whether it's braces, whether it's a limp, whether it's being in a wheelchair, whether it's being short, tall, fat, skinny, freckles, everyone has something that secretly in their own head is an issue for them. This book addresses that. And I will tell you this right now, this CD, the song, I don't know if I could play it for you or not because I know it's copyrighted, so I don't think I can share the CD on this video. But if you get this book, do not listen to the CD for the first time in front of kids because you're gonna cry, okay? I am very, very serious. The song, it's a beautiful song, but because we all have our hang-ups, it's going to strike a chord in your heart and you are going to cry the first time you listen to this song. I think I cried the first 3 times I heard this song. Luckily, I was smart enough not to listen to it in front of the children. Actually, I'm not gonna say I was smart enough. I got lucky. By happenstance, I listened to it before playing it for the children and I sobbed like a baby. This CD, just like that book, I Love You Forever by Robert Munch, I cannot read that book to a classroom. I can't. I will cry because you start to think of your own mom and yeah, so if you're sappy at all, and I am, you have to build up a tolerance to the CD. Listen to it about 2 or 3 times at home by yourself, have a good cry, and then when you play it for the children, you'll be okay and you can get through it without crying. But I've actually played it for other coworkers and they started crying in my classroom and I'm passing out tissues. It'll be okay, it's okay, have a tissue, you're fine. But it's a really good CD. So yes, prepare for this one. But this is a really good book about, again, having a circle and having just a class conversation that, you know, we all have insecurities, we all have things we worry about, and acceptance. We need to accept ourselves, we need to accept each other, and this is who we are. So it's a beautiful book, a beautiful song. The last I want to talk about in this video that I'm talking about is a book called Nobody Knew What to Do. And now, while most of these books are perfectly fine for any grade level, except for obviously this one, this is more toward lower L, but I consider most of these books to be pretty ageless. This one I would recommend for grades 3, 4, and 5. Because this book's a little different. This story is actually a story about a boy who is being bullied. And the book talks about the different things that are being done to him, but what's even worse is that all the other children know he's being bullied. But nobody's doing anything about it because, again, nobody knows what to do. Because all the other kids, they're pretty much thinking, whew, at least it's not me. I'm not being bullied. Okay, it sucks to be him, but I'm okay. And so a lot of the children aren't standing up for this boy to help him. So everyone knows what's going on, but no one's talking about it because everyone's afraid that if they intervene, they'll take his place, that they will now become a target and they will be bullied. So this is a really great book to read to the class and talk about what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. Is it right to know that this person is getting picked on over and over, but we're all standing back and allowing it to happen? And then once the kids say, oh, no, that's not right, that shouldn't happen, great. Now what are you going to do? A perfect example is this year I had a student in my classroom, and I already mentioned him, he was cognitively impaired, so sometimes he would say things that were inappropriate. He acted a little bit less mature than the rest of the class. And so the children, they didn't necessarily know how to play with this child. And I had to literally teach them that, this is how you interact with this boy. This is how you react if he does something wrong. And sometimes he doesn't always mean the things that he says. So my class learned to play with this boy, and it was no big deal in the classroom. In my classroom, he was one of the class and he was accepted. But it was about, I want to say it was about March when I found out that students in the other classroom had targeted him as someone to bully and someone to pick on. And what they would do is they would hit him, and then when he hit back, that was when the lunch ladies would see. So they would make sure that when they hit him first, the lunch lady's back was turned, but then they would yell or cause a commotion so that when my student hit them back, he was busted every time. And so he was getting sent to the principal's office, he was getting kicked out of lunch recess. And once I learned this was happening, I immediately had a sit down with my own class. And we talked about how, no, this cannot be allowed to happen. I'm not there for lunch recess, but he shouldn't have to face this problem alone. And I did have a talk with the other classroom. For the record, I didn't just put this all on my students. I went to the other classroom, I did talk to them about leaving him alone and not picking on him. But again, like I said earlier, kids are going to be stinkers, and if they think they can get away with it and there's not any consequences, they will do what they can to be a little stinker if that's really their end game. So I relied on my boys, because even though the girls were really good about mother henning this child, he was a boy and he wanted to hang with the boys. So I had a meeting with all the boys in my classroom, and we talked about, what can we do if someone from another room is picking on him? How are we going to react? Can we intervene with the lunch ladies? Can you tell the lunch lady the true story of what happened? And then the child himself, I had to talk with him and tell him, if they hit you, get another student from our room, go to the lunch lady yourself. Don't hit back, because that was the plan. The minute you hit back, you're going to be in trouble. And it wasn't easy. It was a work in progress. But eventually, my boys, they rose to the challenge. They did protect him. They looked out for him. And he's got in trouble less and less. So, bullying, no child should be bullied. And I was a victim of bullying myself. It's awful. It is really god-awful. I have no patience for bullying, and I'm always trying to find ways in my own classroom to stop it. One quick thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this video, and I apologize, I know this video is going on and on and on, but I'm really passionate about this topic. I want a positive classroom, I want my kids to be in a safe place, and I want all of my children to be successful. But every now and then you will get those kids that I call one tough cookie. The kid that walks in your room on the first day of school with a chip on their shoulder. And now you don't know their history, you don't know why that chip is there, but it is. And I had a girl come in on the first day of school this past year, and I'll call her Joyce. And Joyce walked in, and I could tell right away she was anti-authority figure. She didn't trust me. And I don't know why. I don't know what her story was in the past, but it was pretty clear that we were going to be bumping heads. If I asked her to do math or asked her to do an assignment, it's like, no, I don't want to. Not important, not going to do it. And when you get into one of those power struggles with a kid, the kid's going to win every time. That's just a fact. They really are going to win every time. So you have to find a way to connect. And I had a miracle happen. Uh-oh. It's okay. You're fine. Sorry, that's my youngest. He's freaking out right now because he made noise. You're okay. It was like the second week of school, and it was right after lunch, and I realized I forgot to put my lipstick back on after lunch. So I took my lipstick out of my purse, I put my lipstick on, and Joyce was like, "What lipstick is that?" And so I showed her the lipstick, and she walked over, and suddenly she's looking in my purse, and she was really interested in all the things in my purse. I'm a girly girl, I got lots of girly stuff in my purse. The next 10 minutes, every girl in my classroom was surrounding my desk as I literally went item by item through the entire contents of my purse. Now, you're probably thinking, you did that for 10 minutes? What a colossal waste of school time. And you know what? Usually I would agree with you, but from that moment on, Joyce loved me. Seriously, she was my BFF for the rest of the year, and she and I, we bonded over lipstick. As silly as that may sound, we totally bonded, and at the end of the school year, Joyce was pulling A's and B's for me. She was one of my hardest workers, and if she didn't get something, she would come to me, and we would work together until she got it. Somehow, going through my purse, as silly as that may sound, was what it took to break this wall she had up, and she trusted me, and it was a great year with her. Another child I had in my room, I'll call him Henry. Henry walked in, and Henry was a smart kid. He was an exceptional reader, but he hated math. Math was a subject that just, no matter how hard he worked at it, he couldn't get it, and he was going to fight it tooth and nail. Well, through the course of September and early October, I learned that Henry was a science junkie. Earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, asteroids, the sun, planets. He thrived on all of that stuff. His favorite TV show was Mythbusters, and he just devoured science. So not only did I make sure that his daily 5 bag of books was filled with nonfiction science at all times, I also made a point with him to stress to him and show him all the opportunities where science is math. Math is the foundation of most science. You know, I showed him how the meteorologists that track the storms, the way they can predict where the storm's going to be in the next 15, 20, and 30 minutes, it's all math. It's the speed of the clouds, it's velocity. I stressed to him how, you know, when they're sending satellites to other planets, the solar system, it's in constant motion. They have to project trajectories. You know, so while I admit, I would love to say that he finished the year with an A in math. It's not true. He finished the year with an okay grade in math. So, but even if he had a hard time with the mechanics of math, that is something that can be developed. That's something that can be worked on. At the end of the day, he still understood the big picture of math. He understood the principles behind math. And sometimes that's more important than the mechanics. So, as a teacher, as much as we want to jump right into ABC 1, 2, 3, you have to connect to the kids first. So if you don't create that classroom environment of a positive one, a safe one, if you don't connect with the kids and build their trust, all the teaching you do, it's not going to matter. Because if you don't break down those walls and get to know those kids and have them get to know you, they're not going to learn. They're really not going to learn. So I hope this was a helpful video. I know especially for new teachers coming out, as much as you learn in college, when you go into that classroom for the first time and you finally come face to face with these 30 personalities and they are all your responsibility, it can be really overwhelming at times. So hopefully I shared some really great ideas to get your September rolling and some activities you can do. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me in the future, click the subscribe button because I have every intention of coming back to this subject in the future, maybe sharing some lessons of how you can turn these books into extended activities. So yeah, I have a lot more to say, but I will stop now because I know this video is getting ridiculously long. And if you hung in here with me through the whole thing, I thank you for listening, and I will talk to you later.